Hello everybody, I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of The Saab Doctor on YouTube. I'm Joe Reichard. You can view my website, www.saabdoctor.com, saabdr.com. I'll have that down in the comments below. Tonight we're actually going to cover doing spark plugs, coil packs, the hard brake booster line, and NG95 coolant hoses on a 2008 9.3 Aero. Now, before we delve into all the fun, I just want to take a second to thank the guys over at eSaabparts.com. They hooked me up with all this stuff. Of course, I didn't get it for free. Let's just start there. But they made sure that I got it in a timely manner. I reached out to Matt. I said, hey, I need to make sure I have this in 2 days. My wife and I are going on a trip. I want to make sure that we make it to Nashville and back. Matt said, no problem. We've got your back. And so over here we've got the NG95 coolant hoses. We have these very, very nice Saab branded spark plugs. They're actually NGKs in Saab boxes. You have 6 Bosch coils and the one, the only, the hard brake booster line. This will all be fun to do. This is going to be my first time around doing it, so that'll be fun. I prepared with some tools that I figured I'd need. First off, you've got your hammer. Hammer always comes in handy. You never know when you're going to need it. You have an angle pliers. That's mainly for the coolant hoses. Probably won't need that for the spark plugs at all. Some spark plug sockets with different lengths, just in case. I don't know what I need. I have my shorty wrench. Thing gets in everywhere. Love that wrench. 10 mil because it's a Saab. Everything's 10 or 13. Unless it's external Torx or Torx. Okay, that wasn't 100% right. Not everything's 10 or 13. Have an extension. Have my 1/2-inch wrench. A couple of screwdrivers. Since we're working with spark plugs, have our spark plug gap tools, just to make sure that the gaps are right. Have some electronic parts cleaner. WD-40 is possibly for the NG95 hoses since there's supposedly a tight fit. So let's get to the fun. To start this project, what you need to do is remove the oil cap, remove the plastic engine cover, which is relatively easy. It just has some push clips on it. Then you actually need to grab some tools. So we'll take out the first coil pack, which I expect the front ones to go real easy. For these front ones, actually need the longer extension on this. So this is the first time pulling these off of this car. As you can see, there's a little bit of oil around the edge of here. It looks like the car is going to need a valve cover gasket in the near future. The other thing I noticed, I believe these have actually been replaced already. We bought the car with 71,000 miles on it. It actually just started having a little bit of a hiccup at idle on cold starts. So, you know, I figured may as well do the plugs quick, see if that's the problem. But yeah, front bank is out and it took all of 5 minutes. So I'd say it's not that bad. We just grab the new plug, one of the new plugs. These are definitely 2 different plugs. This is the one that came out of the car. This is a 6 in heat range. This is the stock plug. It's actually a 7. So the plugs have been replaced on this car. Both NGK Iridium plugs, so should be good to go. Having a little bit different heat range actually isn't that big of a problem. Most people actually run the cooler plugs anyways, which, funny enough, I actually thought the stock plug wasn't going to be the cooler plug of the two. So here we go. Now, I know that a lot of folks are going to say, Joe, why are you replacing the coils on a car with less than 100,000 miles? That's completely stock. One of the reasons for that is, first off, I've heard of these coils coming out in 2 pieces. We leave on our trip tomorrow. I wanted to make sure we didn't have that problem. The other reason is I really, really wanted to have an extra set of 6-cylinder coils sitting on the shelf. We have this car, we have my sister-in-law's Aero, 08 Aero as well, with the 2.8, and I just wanted to make sure that, you know, if something comes up, we have an extra set of coils sitting around, because, you know, the last thing you need is a car down for a while, and quite honestly, I want to see, you know, what this car feels like running with, you know, new stock parts on it. It's fast, it's fast for what it is. It's extremely fun to drive, but hopefully this just makes it run a little bit better. So, yeah, time to keep going. The thing that I'm going to note, some of you will notice that I'm not using dielectric grease. I do recommend to use dielectric grease on this. I'd use it on the plugs here and on the tips. Unfortunately, I don't have any right now. I didn't notice it until after I left the parts store. Alright, and that's the front coils all done. Let me just check time on the camera. Camera says it took me 13 minutes, and the 13 minutes includes my rambling, running for tools, which I didn't have to go too far, and pulling parts out. So let me just reposition the camera and we'll get started on the back ones. For the rear 6 cylinders of this, I'm just looking at this myself. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong a ton of times before, but from what it looks like, the easiest way to do this is remove the ECU, pull back some of the wires. This will make it so I can more easily replace that brake booster hose as well. So what I'm going to start off doing now is removing the negative battery cable, so that way we can remove the ECU safely. Negative battery cable is disconnected, so here we go. Now at this point, I'm actually going to pause, and what I'm going to do, it looks like I've gotten to the point where I can take the hard brake line out. Let me just show you all why I'm replacing it first. Obviously, somebody has been in the car before, they've done plugs. You can tell because they broke this. And I'm not so much a fan of things like glue on hard plastic lines because it can leak, it can cause issues. So that's one of the reasons why that's getting replaced. It looks like at this point I should be able to pull it out. Once I pull it out, then I'll start pulling coils from what it looks like. Could be wrong on that, but only way to find out is to start disassembling. This is exactly why I wanted to replace this. I hardly even tapped it and it just fell apart, so good thing this is getting replaced. Extremely funny, somebody on the forums actually said before I started this, that'll take you all of about 2 minutes to remove, and they were 100% right. I shouldn't say forums, on one of the Facebook groups. So now that the plugs are in, the coils are in, the vacuum hose is all in, clipped in. Now we just need to put back the ECU, tighten down the wiring harness, put all the bolts back in that, make sure it's all right. I grabbed a couple extra screws from the parts bin for the one that I lost. One's a little shorter, one's a little bigger, depending on what I need. So here we go. One thing I definitely want to make a note of at this point, make sure to reattach your ground wires back to the ECU that are on the ECU harnesses. Just something you don't want to forget. You want to make sure that that's all grounded properly. Alright, so that's it. She's all back together. I am going to, well, first I'm going to put the battery terminal back on, then we're going to start her up and see if she runs. See how badly I broke it. But I guess maybe the better question is, what did I do with the keys to it? Oh, here we go. Kind of need those. So she seems to run perfect, a lot better than before, so that's a really, really good start. Just going to put the engine cover back on, which is why I didn't have the oil cover back on. Just pop that back in here. And then we can be on to radiator hoses. Now, just to sum it all up, just did the coils and spark plugs on a 2008 Saab 9.3 with a 2.8 liter turbo engine. It took me about an hour and a half. It was my first time around. I'm sure I could cut 20-30 minutes, maybe a little bit more out of that actually, if, well, first off, if I wasn't filming and rambling. Second, if I, you know, had known exactly what I was going to do, exactly what was going to happen. I did kind of wing it a little bit. If this were a 2-liter turbo car, same job would have taken me about 15 minutes. The thing with the 2.8 is, you know, that back bank of coils just a little bit harder to get to. You have to take a few things out. So on to the next portion of our fun. So we're going to have the fun of modifying these NG95, that's New Gen 95 hoses. Here's the part number right here. I'll put links to where to find them on esaabparts.com below. Huge shout out to Esaab Parts once again. Matt from Esaab Parts is actually the one who I spoke with about doing this. We talked about how, you know, just needs to be documented a little bit better, just so others can do this a lot more easily on their own. Once again, we're doing this on a 2.8 liter 9.3 Aero. This is a 2008 specifically, combi. The reason we're doing them, once again, you look at these hoses, they're just buckling on the inside. These are ready to blow. They're probably, you know, pretty close to done. We're driving the car from Milwaukee to Nashville over the next couple days, so I just want to make sure that we make it there safe. We don't have a failure on the road. I know with my sister-in-law's car, she was driving along one day, and it's funny because the hoses were already replaced, and you know this hose actually right in this area where this one's all buckled just split. You know, smoke everywhere. Shouldn't say smoke, it was steam everywhere, but ended up having to replace those hoses again, so we're just going to do these preventatively. Okay, so of course, before working on any cooling system stuff, if your car is hot, you know, slowly release this. I'd let it cool down a bit before releasing it though, because you're going to be working with coolant. So just slowly turn it, let the system depressurize. This one is pretty well depressurized to begin with, so we're good there. I'm going to start by showing you how this is going to work, most likely. This hose is going to be a direct replacement practically for this hose right here. Like I said, I believe it's a little bit tighter. I have some different clamps for this that we're going to use, some regular worm style clamps that I grabbed from the auto parts store. For this one, hose is a bit long, and from what it looks like, and I might have this flipped upside down right now, still need to figure it out a bit, going to have to play with it. It's going to need to be trimmed, I already know that. So, get this hose out of the way, we'll figure out this bottom hose first, we'll go from there. So just, you know, grab an angle pliers, that's what I use at least. Crack this loose. These, after being on here as long as these have been, which, I mean, these are definitely factory fresh. So, you know, at this point in life, they're 10 years old. Probably going to be a little tougher to get that off. Very, very gently do this, because all you want to do is crack it loose from the plastic. You do not want to break that plastic, because if you break that, then you're going to have to buy a whole new washer bottle, or sorry, not washer bottle, reservoir bottle. They aren't that expensive, but, you know, why replace it if you don't have to, unless yours is already leaking. This side, same thing. Back it off. Give her a little bit of a twist and pull her right off. Pretty simple. Same with the back one, which is going to be the one we're going to start with. Just take her, back that one off, back this one off, give her a little gentle twist. Ooh, it's not working out too well. Part of that's probably because the hose has been leaking slightly already. There's probably already some coolant buildup in there. You really don't want to turn this too hard. Just enough to, you know, break it loose so you can pull it off. There we go. Perfect. And same again with this bottom one. Yeah, you're going to lose a little bit of coolant doing this. So here is the NG95 hose. I probably should have asked Matt exactly what he'd do. I didn't do that first. I like to ad-lib things, as everyone's going to learn. But let me pull this clamp off here. I heard that this one just will not work. That's what I've been told by a couple folks. Okay, be very careful with this. It looks like they put a little bit of glue on here to keep this clamp in place while they're shipping. So be extremely, extremely careful not to ruin the hose you just bought. I'm going to say this. I did buy 2 of them, just in case. Because, I mean, they're only like $3 or $4, maybe $6. I don't quite remember exactly which hose was which price, but both the hoses are relatively inexpensive, so I bought spares. Because especially around here, you never know whose car is going to end up in here next, whose car is going to need a new one of these. Sorry, I feel like I'm fumbling this around a bit. I probably should have prepped it. There we go. Finally came off. Actually, you know something? I don't like how that went, but here, this might be the end that gets trimmed, and if it is, that's perfectly fine with me. So, let's take a look at this. So that side slips right on there. Then yeah, we trim this end a bit. That should be relatively good. Give it a spin like that. Take her, trim her right around here. I'm going to trim this heat wrap back a little bit and should be pretty good. So I would probably trim this. Of course the heater kicks in right when I'm talking. I'm going to trim it a little long. I'm going to trim it right about here. So I'm going to make a mark. And then I'm going to pull it off and bring it over to the table. So, hard to see, but here's the mark that I made. Actually going to take this blade, cut right into this, cut right into the hose, cut right through the sheathing here. Probably cut through the sheathing first. So I'm going to trim this about 1.25 inches from what it looks like. I'm probably actually going to go just a hair, well, I'll probably go just 1.25 inches exact. That's exactly where it looks like it should be cut. So just take her, be extremely, extremely careful. I'm not the kind of guy to necessarily practice caution that much, but, you know, I don't want anyone else getting injured, of course. Fortunately, I live about 10 minutes from the ER, and, well, they don't know my name there yet. We just moved out here, but I'm sure they will soon enough. So just cut that right off there. I'm going to grab a clamp so we can trim just, you know, this sheathing back a little bit, and then we'll go from there. This is a 3/8 to 7/8 hose clamp. It's a little big. I'm expecting this to become a little bit bigger when we put it on, because the side that goes on the reservoir is all quite a bit larger. And I'm just going to cut this sheathing back. I'm cutting it back very, very carefully to make sure that I don't damage the hose. The last thing I want is any reason for this hose to break. So just peel that back. That's actually pretty good right there. It's not perfect, but should do the job. So back to the car with it. Alright, so before we do anything, I'm going to take the cap, put it back over the top, just to make sure nothing falls in there. Just a little bit of preventative measures there, just to make sure. Last thing I want to do is drop one of these hose clamps in there, then I gotta fish it out. So this is where the old adage, a little lube goes a long way, comes in. This is just a hair bigger, so you just give it a little spray. Make sure you have your hose clamp on here. Give her a little spray. Take her and then work her right over there. And it fits really, really nice and snug. When I say really snug, I mean really, really snug. Which is a huge, huge plus in comparison to the stock ones. I actually may need to trim this one a bit more looking at it now. Yeah. Well, actually no, that's going to work just perfect there. Because then we'll take this one. It looks like this 9.5 clamp will work perfect on this side. Once again, just going to want a hair of lube over that. Once again, a little bit of WD-40, just a small spray. Make sure your hose clamp is on there. Then take it and work it over there, over the reservoir a little bit. She might take a little bit of doing there to get her on. Now that WD-40 though, that should go pretty easy. You want to make sure that these are pushed in as far as possible, because the last thing you want is one of these blowing off while you're driving on the road. Because just remember, it's going to blow off on a day where it's either extremely, extremely hot or busy on the freeway or something. So you want to make sure to work those out all the way. And take them, Tighten down your clamps. These constant tension clamps, literally all you do is just pop them off. There we go. Easy enough. Make sure that's straight the way you want it. One thing you're going to want to do, you're going to want to make sure you top up your fluids. This one didn't lose too much, so we're good there. So, you know, that's really all. It's pretty simple. If you have any questions, comment below. Check my blog, which is going to be on my website, which is also below, saabdoctor.com, saabdr.com. Other than that, Saab on, folks. Alright, well, now for the car side. Pretty simple. Slide that on there. You're going to tighten that down in a minute. This is where the old adage, a little lube goes a long way, comes in my opinion. I'm just putting just a little bit on the edge here, mainly because this is a bit larger than the hole on the hose. So you want to make sure that it goes over that barb without an issue. And I didn't just do that, did I? Well, got a hole in one.